people, but hundreds of people involved. So Walter Clore is on our list today as one of those people to help move our state forward in the horticultural arena. This beautiful center brings people together for seminars, for meetings, and a teaching instrument for Washington State University and the entire industry. In many ways, this is a classroom. This is a place where people can come and learn. They can visit the vineyards in the area. They can see and talk to real farmers who are doing the real work out there to make sure that we produce the finest grapes in the world, and then we can watch that wine produced and go to sale. So it's a great addition to our state and one that we're proud of, the Walter Clore Wine and Culinary Center in Prosser, Washington. It's one of my favorite places, and I hope you'll visit.
This is the Grays Harbor National Wildlife Refuge. These incredible tide flats host just a wide variety of birds as they migrate up and down the west coast in the spring and the fall. If you haven't seen these migratory birds, come to Grays Harbor and see this location. This refuge, this resting spot for migratory birds is one incredible place to watch. You not only see the shorebirds, the sandpipers and the plovers and a wide variety of other shorebirds, but in the sky you see eagles and harriers and hawks and falcons. Boy, if you're a bird lover or ever just wanted to do it for one day, this is the place to visit. This is one of my favorite places in the state of Washington.
Most people in the state would never believe that Walla Walla used to be the biggest community in our state, and it was really the center focus for the whole territory before statehood. A thriving community here in the foothills of the Blue Mountains, incredible agricultural, beautiful scenery, just a wonderful place to visit. In 1971, I was here in Walla Walla and I was walking down the street. I went into the Baker Boyer Bank, which is the oldest bank in the state of Washington. And I was talking to the bank president, and he had books piled all over his office. At that time, this valley was known for its wheat and lentils and peas and a wide variety of agricultural products. I looked at him and I said, what are all these books about? And he said, I'm trying to determine who brought grapes to this valley first. I think grapes would be an incredible product for us to grow. And here we are today, just 40, 50 years later, everywhere in the Walla Walla Valley, grape growers. The finest grapes in the United States, maybe in the world, here in Walla Walla. Walla Walla has to be one of my favorite places.
It's hard to believe, but the river valleys of western Washington used to be filled with huge, huge trees. Some say they were bigger than the sequoias in California. They were cut by the early loggers and the stumps were left behind. And this one is a classic. This is the stump that you can drive through at Smoky Point up in the rest area in Snohomish County. In the 1950s, this stump was located next to the Pacific Coast Highway. Thousands of Washingtonians drove through the stump, including our family in the 1950s in this old Dodge. I'll always remember it. This stump is significant because it shows us what the timber was like. This truly is one of my favorite places.
My name is Amelia Florentino, and I'm a student at Renton High School. Washington is the only state in the country that has a presumptive sentencing grid for juvenile offenders, reducing judicial discretion. How do policy changes proposed in this committee address disparities seen in Washington's juvenile justice system, and what are your thoughts on them?
Thanks for that question, Amelia, and appreciate that you're coming from Renton High School, which is right in the heart of the 11th District. I was a golf coach at Renton High School, and my parents went there. I went to Hazen, and I teach at Lindbergh, so always fun when there's a student from the Renton School District down in Olympia. My hope for working on fixing the grid for our juvenile offenders is that we can make small incremental change. This year, one of the most egregious pieces of that grid deal with robbery 1 and robbery 2 charges. Currently in House Bill 2389, we have what I would call a fix to that, like that way out of whack proposal that right now the grid has a sentence of up to 5 years, for example, for a 16 or 17-year-old who commits robbery 1, where that's actually that's a longer sentence than some adult sentences for that same crime right now. We're trying to almost cut that in half at this point and make some headway as we're going into additional discussions. It's not an easy topic because it's not the most popular thing to be reducing sentences. We don't want people to get out too early and not be rehabilitated to the point where they're maybe committing additional crimes. So there's this fine line that we have to look at, and once a system is set up, it's hard to change that system. So slow, incremental change, trying to figure out where those inroads can be made is part of what we're hoping to do with House Bill 2389 this year.
That's interesting that Washington State is the only state that has the grid system. But, you know, it was put into place many years ago, and it was for a reason, for accountability, to make sure that when there are crimes, there's consequences. And I still believe in that. But I also understand that our kids that are in the situation in the juvenile justice system have been through many, many trauma issues. They are have some real personal problems, and we need to be cognitive of that and understanding of that. We are looking at a new system now where the grid is shortened, I would say that, so that only the worst crimes they will be doing time in the juvenile justice system, and the rest of the time they're going to be in the community, surrounded with a group of people that are going to hold them accountable for their community service in school. Now, the bill that Representative Cortez has this year, we believe is not quite strong enough. We, as the Republican Party, believe that we need to make sure that some of these crimes are added to the grid, to the crime system, so that they are doing the time. We also believe, I believe, that we need to make sure that the kids, when they are performing the crimes, they are held accountable in front of the judge, and they are immediately sentenced for all of the crimes that they're committed, for each crime, and then given the diversion. So at that point, if they have they're not following the diversion, then they come immediately and go into the juvenile justice system without stopping at the judge. It is important, in my opinion, that they know that there's something hanging over their head. Now, we also need to make sure that we have the services available for them in our community, and I'm fearful that we don't have enough set up yet in the community for them. They have been, when many years ago I learned about the ACEs, and that is the trauma, counting the trauma issues that these kids have accumulated as they've grown up, whether they're coming from a divorced family or they've been grown up in a gang family. All of those create trauma, and the more you have, the worse situation and mental health issues that you have. So we need to make sure that these kids understand that and that they can change. I had 2 gentlemen in here in my office last week from Mount Vernon, and they were gang members in their lifetime. They are now running a nonprofit to help people and kids get out of gangs and help them through the process of learning what does life really look like in the outside world, and how they can start to acclimate to a society and maybe someday have their own family, as these young gentlemen did. It is a complicated issue, and it's all about, I like to be thinking that we're working with the crisis mode, but we also need to be looking at prevention. And again, that's where our family support centers come in. We need to surround our families and help them in their through their troubles, and help them, give them some hope and support so that they can raise their children to be adults and society members.
The Skagit Valley has to be one of my very favorite places. It's a remarkable location. The wildlife is something remarkable, the snow geese and trumpeter swans and birds of prey, and it's just an amazing place. The special time of year is when the tulips bloom. They've been growing tulips in the valley since about 1909. It's just such a beautiful thing to see. The seed industry really spawned the tulip industry. Vegetable seed and so forth was grown there. Some of the best seed in the world. And then people said, well, let's go with tulips. It's now expanded out. It's become quite an industry, and of course a huge tourist attraction for that area. That valley is so diverse and so rich. No matter what month of the year, it's one of my favorite places. I just love it.
You know, if you ask the average citizen in Washington State about our defense industry and where our locations are, they'll tell you about McChord, or they might mention Fort Lewis or one of the major bases around the state, but hardly anybody knows about Jim Creek. And here we are high in the Cascade Mountains, where one of our most important facilities is located. Started in the 1940s and been upgraded many times since then. This is where we communicate to our military all over the world through an antenna and radio system that's still used today. It's the major communication effort that our military has, and it's located right here in Northwest Washington. The Navy not only protects us, but it's also protected some of the biggest trees in our state. The stump behind me is just one example of something that was logged before the Navy got here. But high in these hills, they've also protected some of our finest old-growth forest. This is Jim Creek, and it is one of my favorite places.
My name is Ruth. I am in 10th grade from Arlington. I learned from my research that Washington lawmakers are considering 3 bills regarding the selling of kratom in convenience stores. What strategy could be the most effective in regulating supplements like kratom, and why?
Good question. In general, it is the responsibility of the legislature to make sure that products that are unreasonably harmful to youth or to other segments of the population have the proper restrictions and guidelines. Generally, for youth, it comes to age. I'm not sure, though, that kratom is good for anybody, but it is particularly a problem for youth who can be vulnerable to products like that. So the regulatory scheme would be to ensure that retailers have to check IDs and cannot sell the product to anyone under 18 without their parents' permission. And then we ask the state to regulate that, and that could be anything from sending in undercover people to make sure that the stores are complying with the law, and then also to make sure that retailers are educated and understand what the requirements are, and to have reasonable penalties for retailers that violate the law. That's what makes an effective regulatory scheme, in my opinion.
Well, Ruth, that is a great question, and one that a lot of states, including Washington, are grappling with right now. Whenever you think of new and emerging substances, there's always a rush to figure out what's the appropriate way to handle those. And in this case, we have a drug, a substance that is right now widely accessible, very little guardrails or regulations around preventing minors from getting access to those drugs. So that's something that we all look at in the legislature, is what is the appropriate way to handle those. One of the challenges we face as a citizen legislature, aka we only work part-time, right? We're only in Olympia for part of the year, is really having a good grasp while we're there of what the issues are. So that's why it's important when it comes to any particular issue, but especially when you're going to be putting new rules and regulations on a product, is to make sure that you have an understanding of the substance, in this case, kratom and others, before you get there. I've had a chance to talk with a number of people around this industry to learn what the substance is, what it actually does, who's accessing it right now, or has access to it, excuse me, and what are the appropriate guardrails. In this case, kratom does appear to be a substance similar in line to nicotine, tobacco products, cannabis, and should be subject to similar restrictions in terms of purchase, access, and so on. So that's part of the regulation piece. The other part is making sure that where it's being sold legally, that they are aware of what the product is and who can and can't access it. So a lot of times we'll spend, legislative session working with retailers and others to figure out what the market actually is, where it goes, and how we should regulate it. So as a conservative, I am always very concerned with putting unnecessary, overburdensome regulations without fully understanding the topic, or in this case, the substance that you're regulating. However, when you learn more about kratom and what the product is and what it does, especially youth, I think it's important that we set up safe guardrails so that youth can't access it and that stores know what their rules and requirements are for selling it. So in any case, in this case, kratom, you want to look holistically at both the substance, the product, and the market to understand what it is and what changes you should be making.
In its simplest form, what the legislative process are the steps that a bill must go through to be enacted. The idea is it starts in one form and it works its way through the process. And at different steps of the process, different people see it, they work on it, they get to comment on it, and where appropriate, they get to make changes. And it must do each of them by a set period of time, kind of like an obstacle course. Our legislature is split into two chambers, the Senate and the House. For a bill to become law, the exact same bill in the exact same form needs to pass both chambers in the exact same session. A bill can start in either chamber. It really doesn't matter, just so long as it goes through all those steps. What are those steps? We're going to get into them in detail, but there's only a few key ones you need to keep in mind for now. House bills start in the House. They go all the way through the Policy Committee, the Fiscal Committee. They get voted on the House floor. If they make it that far, guess what? They go.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. We're about to get started. Thanks so much for being here. We so appreciate it. And I think we're going to start with Brianna Aho from my team is going to come and lay out sort of the order of events that we're doing and the speakers for the press that are here. Brianna?
Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Brianna Aho, Governor Ferguson's Communications Director. I'll just briefly walk you through the format for the event today. First, you'll hear from Estela Ortega, Executive Director of El Centro De La Raza. Then the Governor will speak about House Bill 2165. Then you'll hear from Bill sponsor, Representative Edwin Obras. Then the Governor will sign that bill. We'll take a brief pause to set it for the next bill and give our interpreter a brief break. Then the Governor will speak about Senate Bill 5855. Then you'll hear from bill sponsors Senator Javier Valdez and Representative Julio Cortez. Then followed by Malu Chavez, Executive Director of Northwest Immigrant Rights Project. Then the Governor will sign the bill and pause for photos. Thank you so much. With that, Estela, thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to start with the land acknowledgement. I'd like to express my gratitude and acknowledgement to the Muckleshoot people who are the traditional stewards of this land and the federally recognized Treaty Tribe of King County. We recognize the Muckleshoots' continued presence as a strong sovereign nation and their invaluable contributions to our state history, our economy, and our culture. Bienvenidos. Good morning. Welcome to El Centro De La Raza, the Center for People of All Races. It is a profound honor to welcome you into our home. Nuestra casa es su casa. On behalf of our board of directors, our dedicated staff, our volunteers, and the thousands of families we serve each year, mil gracias for being here. We are deeply honored to host this important gathering. In 2017, at a critical moment for immigrant communities across the state and nation, El Centro De La Raza publicly declared itself a sensitive location. We did this to affirm a fundamental principle that every person must be able to access essential food, housing, education, health care, legal support without intimidation, harassment, or harm. Although federal sensitive location protections were rescinded in 2025, the need for safety, accountability, and transparency has not disappeared. Our communities, our institutions, our allies continue to stand firm in defense of immigrant families. That commitment is why we are here today. To the legislators who have championed this work, to our governor who will be signing these important bills, to the advocates who pushed tirelessly, and to every community member who made your voice heard or stood in solidarity. Gracias for your courage, brings hope to the struggle for justice. Today is another example that immigrant communities will not be left to navigate alone. Mil gracias for being here today, and as a community, we are grateful for your unwavering commitment to our shared future. Gracias.
First, let's start by giving Estella a huge round of applause, and for all who work at this wonderful organization. We really can't thank her enough for her leadership over many, many years and the wonderful work that goes on right here. So it's wonderful. Thank you for welcoming us back one more time. Also, I want to make clear, so folks are welcome. I know we have legislators here and community folks who have been involved. I think I see Speaker Jenkins. Folks are more, it's like any bill signing. Come on back and join us if you want to come up here. I'll be saying a few words. We'll be hearing from sponsors, but by all means, feel free to join us. We'll be taking a photograph afterwards, but do not be shy. We have lots of legislative leaders, community leaders who are here, and we want to encourage them to join us if they want to come on up and navigate their way through the, there we go. And we have some, give them all a round of applause for there. Thank you all, and the more the merry. Feel free to join us. Governor, how are you? Thanks for being here. I also want to thank, and is Mayor Wilson here by any chance?
Yes, she is. I just saw her.
So please give a round of applause to Mayor Wilson as well for being here in her city. Mayor Wilson has really been a true ally on these issues. We appreciate her taking time from her busy schedule. And also there's community leaders who have here. Give them a round of applause for all their hard work on this legislation and so many others. And of course, there are many elected officials, local, and especially though our state legislators work so hard on this legislation, along with our sponsors. Give them a huge round of applause there. And one more I'll mention is we have, I think this is the first bill signing I've been a part of where we actually have watch parties going on around the state. So I know in Bellingham and in Spokane, we have a large group of community leaders, elected officials, and many others who have joined in those communities to watch these proceedings. And we're thankful, of course, this is a statewide effort, of course. And we know not everybody can travel a great distance to be here. We appreciate them. Please give them a round of applause for joining us and their hard work. And I will just say, Estella, there is no more appropriate place to sign this legislation than right here. And we've done that in the past with other legislation, announcing lawsuits back in my days as Attorney General, being here for Dreamers, and really it's an honor to be here again. So thank you for your hospitality. CNN found that there were more ICE impersonation incidents in 2025 than the past 4 presidential administrations combined. I don't think that figure is a shock to any of us. If you're not a law enforcement officer, it needs to be illegal to wear something that gives the impression that you are. So right now, at least for the next 5 minutes until we sign this legislation into law, right now it's actually perfectly legal for an individual to be in a car, to mark that car with ICE insignia, and drive around to school all day long, or to drive around to church, or drive around a courthouse. That's perfectly legal to give that impression. You can do that. That will change today. And that's why I was so pleased to work with State Representative Edwin Obras and companion bill sponsor Senator Adrian Cortez to propose this governor request legislation. House Bill 2165 keeps people safe by making it a gross misdemeanor to wear
Because I'm being
law
asked to
enforcement.
leave, this is a list of things we need right now for safety that can be done immediately. All cameras are hackable. All surveillance is subpoenable, let alone hackable. We need funding for people who are scared to work because of your carelessness. DOL needs to stop sharing data with anyone who will share it with DHS. DHS out of Washington State. DHS out of Washington State.
So House Bill 2165 helps keep people safe by making a gross misdemeanor to wear law enforcement insignia or have it on your vehicle. It also expands the definition of a peace officer to cover all federal law enforcement agencies, including ICE, which helps ensure that impersonating any federal agent is prohibited under state law. We will not allow individuals to take advantage of the current climate of fear created by the Trump administration to put on fake badges and intimidate the people of our state. This common sense change in state law will make Washingtonians safer and hold imposters accountable. I so appreciate the strong bipartisan support. There is bipartisan support, and I want to highlight that for this common sense legislation. Legislators and myself all know that to get any bill to this point requires a team effort. It's lots of individuals calling legislators, meeting with legislators, testifying at committee, doing all that work at the ground level. I think we can also agree, though, that you need champions in the state legislature to make any bill get to this point, and our prime sponsor of this legislation is State Representative Obras, and he's here today to say a few words. Please give him a warm round of applause.
How's everyone doing today? Thank you, Governor, for requesting this piece of legislation. Thank you to Estela Ortega for hosting this press conference and this bill signing. And I want to also thank my colleagues who understood what it meant to have justice in a time when there's chaos in our communities. This was, as Governor said, was a bipartisan supported bill. And for me, as I spoke in committee on the House floor, it's always been about accountability and community safety. We are at a time when there's chaos and confusion in our communities. I spoke to mothers, daycare providers on the 3rd floor of the legislative building. Many of them were crying about the fear that they were encountering as they went along about their day. They felt afraid that their partner, their family members were going to be taken away. And at this time, this piece of legislation will help ease all the fear and anxiety that many of our community members have been experiencing. Again, it's about trust and that we've built. Trust with law enforcement. Members of the Filipino community of Seattle are here, and they've done a wonderful job developing relationships with local police, meeting quarterly, and understanding what it means to be in community with law enforcement. I'd like to continue working with the governor and members of Color Caucus, many of them who are here today. Please raise your hand. In pushing for legislation that protects our communities. Again, I want to thank the governor and especially the community who are bearing the brunt of this this situation. The climate is many times very difficult for folks to go about their day. And the community has moved forward and taken responsibility of taking care of each other. So for the community partners that are here, please give them a round of applause for looking after each other. Thank you.
And I want to thank once again our companion sponsor, that's Senator Cortez. He could not make the long drive from his home here. He wanted to be here, but we also appreciate his work. I think now we are ready to sign this bill into law, and they're going to bring it up. So the way we're going to do this, I'm going to sign it here at the desk. Feel free to come on in, you guys, for the photograph, and let's do this right now. And I need 3 pens. Yeah, one more here. Perfect. Okay. Thanks again, everybody. And so one thing, it's a tradition for those who may not have been to bill signing for the pen to go to the prime sponsor, of course. On this instance, we'll use 3 pens, one for our prime sponsor, one for our companion sponsor, and one for, where is Estella?
Right here.
Right behind me, and one for Estella. First, another round of applause for Estella for her wonderful
Otro aplauso para el gobernador.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Another round of applause for Representative Obras. And one for Senator Cortez. Let's all take a photo, everybody. Well, okay, we're going first up. Yeah, all right. And then we got a few down here, it looks like. Got it? Round of applause, everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Senator Cortez. Awesome. That's Senator Cortez. Cool. Thank you. Okay. All right, take just a moment before we get ourselves ready for our next bill. Give us just one moment, everybody. Okay, so I'm looking for the senator. We have the senator, and we have. Okay. And are we ready to go to the next one? We're all set. Okay, wonderful. All right, we have one more bill to sign today, and this is a big one, and it's an honor really to be here for this. In my the state address that I gave, I guess it was just over 2 months ago now, right? Not too long ago. I said the following. And by the way, these are words I've said, I would guess over the course of last year more than 100 times. But I said again at the state address. I said, as an American, I never thought I would see federal agents in masks jumping out of unmarked cars and grabbing people off our streets. This conduct will undoubtedly be remembered as a shameful period in our nation's history. It's horrific, it's unjust, and it needs to stop now. I went in to highlight legislation from Senator Valdez, who's the prime sponsor of this legislation, about the importance of Senate Bill 5855. And I said, let's get that legislation to my desk immediately so I can sign it into law. And thankfully, because of a lot of hard work from a lot of folks, that day has arrived. Thank you so much, everybody, for your hard work on this. Law enforcement's job, of course, is to protect us. Yet ICE is hiding from public accountability. For the safety of both the public and for law enforcement, Washingtonians must know they are interacting with legitimate law enforcement officers. I'm honored to be with you all today to sign this legislation which prohibits law enforcement, including federal immigration agents, from wearing masks while conducting official business in Washington State. This bill establishes important transparency and public accountability measures to protect public safety. It also shows our immigrant community, our friends, family, and neighbors, that we will stand up to protect them, that they have a place in our state, and that they can feel safe in their home. We all have agency in defending our democracy. I am convinced that years from now, our children and grandchildren will ask, what were we doing when this was going on in our streets? I'm 100% convinced of that. Whatever our station in life happens to be, we all have a responsibility to speak out, peacefully make our voices heard, advocate for laws like this one, and assist our fellow Washingtonians. And I want to thank again all the community leaders, the community organizations, the labor partners, the elected officials, and everybody who's brought this historic legislation. We are really literally amongst the first, if not the first, to now have one in place. I'm proud that the Washington State is leading this effort, and I'm also really pleased now to introduce the prime sponsor of this legislation, That is State Senator Valdez, who I've known for many, many years, and who comes from the 46th District, which I think it's okay amongst legislators to say is my favorite because I'm from the 46th District. So give a warm round of applause to Senator Javier Valdez.
Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Buenos dias. Buenos dias. Well, thank you, Governor, for your kind words and your leadership also on this bill. I do remember in our speech, your opening speech of the legislature this session, you actually highlighted the urgency to have this bill passed, and I want to thank you for that support. I also want to acknowledge, of course, my colleagues here who are here today, and also to the over 14,000 Washingtonians who signed in favor of this bill when it first got its first hearing in the State Senate Law and Justice Committee. An incredible number of folks. All on their own. People just kept signing up. No organized effort. Folks just kept wanting to show support for why this bill was absolutely needed. Again, for the record, I'm Javier Valdez, State Senator from the 46th Legislative District, which is Northeast Seattle. I started working on this bill last year. Like many of you, I saw what was occurring not just throughout the country, but right here in Washington State, where Washingtonians were there was fear and chaos, but also intimidation brought to our communities, not just in certain areas, but throughout our entire state. We saw that whether, of course, it was Upton and Whatcom County, where a roofing company and a bunch of workers were detained by federal ICE officials, hiding their identity, or incidents in Clark County, or of course incidents in King County, but throughout the state. I immediately, when I saw what was going on, I knew Washington did not stand for that. That's not the Washington that I was born and raised in. We were not going to stand for this, and so I immediately worked with in the state Senate with the Senate Majority Leader Peterson and Deputy Majority Leader Dingra. I don't think they're here today, but I want to thank them for their strong support when I said I was going to be tackling this issue. But they too, of course, were very supportive of making sure that we were going to do what's right here in Washington State here in the 2026 session. Again, fear, intimidation, tearing families apart, that's not the Washington I know. It's not the Washington I was born and raised in, and I'm glad we were able to act. As this bill moved through the legislative process, there were still many occurrences that were happening throughout our state. One in particular I want to highlight, it was actually in my own 46th district on Aurora Avenue in January, where there was a gentleman detained by masked officials hiding their identity from the public while they were in their course of duties, again causing fear and intimidation. And this individual had his little child in the car and had to, while this person was being detained by federal immigration officials, they had to wait till a family member had to come pick up that little child. Can you imagine what that little child was going through, seeing his father being detained, again, by masked officers, hiding their identities from the public? I can't imagine what that child was going through. And we also heard from law enforcement, like, why are we doing this bill? We don't have any incidents in Washington State where local or state officers are masking and hiding their identity. Well, but that wasn't the case. In late January, in Spokane, in the city of Spokane, it was reported that there were local law enforcement officials from the city of Spokane who were discovered to be hiding their identity while they were in their official course of duties. So again, it further reinstated and supported why this law needed to apply to everyone, not just federal, but local and state law enforcement officials. I think some of you may have seen the recent report just the other day from the University of Washington that showed over the last part of 2025, there was a strong increase in Washington State in the number of ICE events where individuals were being detained, in particular in the counties of King, Clark, and Yakima. And again, this is not the Washington I think the Washington supports. We want to make sure that we keep families together, that we support our hardworking families who are simply just trying to survive and make a living, but also just want to ensure that their families, their children, have a much more better opportunity than the ones that they have now. That's the Washington I know. That's the Washington I believe in. And so here with Senate Bill 5855, we're saying no more fear, no more intimidation, no more hiding your identity while you're interacting with the public. The public deserves to know who you are. So I want to thank everyone in this room here today. I also want to acknowledge Speaker Jenkins, Speaker Jenkins, who was my friend Speaker Jenkins, who was also very supportive of this bill, and I can't thank her enough for her leadership to get this bill through the House. It was tough getting it through the Senate, tougher getting it through the House. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And our community thanks you for that. And so here we are, looking forward to the governor signing this bill here today and making history here in Washington State. Thank you so much.
Buenos dias. I'm State Representative Julio Cortez, and I ran the bill in the House, and I think when Senator Valdez first approached me about this bill, I knew that it was going to be one of the most important bills that we were able to pass this short session for community safety for all Washingtonians. So I do want to thank Senator Valdez for his leadership in passing this legislation. I want to thank Governor Ferguson and his team for being supportive of this legislation, and of course the many advocates that are here today for standing up, for speaking up to ensure that all Washingtonians, including our immigrant populations, feel a little bit safer. Feel a little bit safer when they're dropping their kids off at school, a little bit safer when they're driving to the grocery store, or just simply heading to work. I think this policy reaffirms a very simple principle that when law enforcement officers are exercising their authority in public-facing duties, that public deserves to know who is policing them. Our local law enforcement officers, they do great. ICE, not so much. I think in the last year and a half, we've all witnessed the horrific actions, both locally and nationally, where masked or unidentifiable ICE officers cause confusion, chaos, mistrust, fear, and tragedies in all of our communities. That erosion of trust makes policing at all levels more dangerous for everyone, including law enforcement officers. And I think that through this bill, when folks, community members can clearly identify who is policing them, those interactions are going to remain a little more calm, a little bit more cooperative, and safer for everyone. This policy is about community safety and ensuring that there's accountability, clarity, and trust with law enforcement officers. I think that it reflects the values that Washingtonians expect from their public institutions and from those that are entrusted with ensuring that the laws are followed. So as an immigrant from Mexico, as a person that has family here who are immigrants, I want to thank all of you for being here today. It's going to be something that's going to be remembered in history. It's something that makes me feel a little bit safer, and it's something that makes my family feel a little bit safer. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being here and supporting this important legislation.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Malou. My bad. Malou, the most important speaker of all. Malou, go right ahead. My apologies.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, or morning. It's been a long day. I first want to acknowledge our colleagues and our community members outside, because this is the frustration and the fear our communities are experiencing. And so I'm here today to speak as Executive Director of Northwest Immigrant Rights Project, a statewide free legal aid services organization. My colleagues at NERP and many community partners who are present today, day after day, we walk alongside our community members who are impacted by what we're seeing, what you heard, the stories you heard, here in Washington State, providing direct legal services, but also community education around what our constitutional rights are, what the laws are. And so we hear their stories, and we speak on the challenges and violence that they're experiencing as unidentified and masked agents are taking and disappearing our loved ones, our neighbors, our client communities, forcing family separation. We know the federal administration has a stated goal of mass detention, mass deportation. And our communities fear this.
We also know that these goals are supported by a massive budget and resources at the hands of the federal government. And so it is only right that states like Washington State take action. And so we are thankful to Senator Valdez, Representative Cortez, the sponsors, the legislators, because today we take action. And so we're also thankful to Governor Ferguson and Washington State for standing strong in their commitment to protect against federal overreach and safeguard our constitutional freedoms. Your taking action today will help our immigrant community members feel welcome, know that they are not alone, and that they will be safe. And that we, as immigrant rights advocates, many of us present here today, are not alone in defending the rights of our communities against the erosion of fundamental rights, against the due process erosions, and for the protections against blatant disregard of laws and due process. Thank you. Our communities count on you to continue to protect all of us.
So please give another round of applause to Malou, who really is, she's on the front lines. She's really on the front lines of this work and has been for a long time. And obviously, she's one of many individuals just like that all across our state. And I appreciate what you said, especially about continue. Like, this is an important day, and I think it's always good to celebrate, important days, important milestones, and important steps. But I appreciate you emphasizing this is a continued work, and today's one step on that journey. And, I also, when I was stepping to the podium too soon, my apologies, but I was also going to speak briefly to the protesters as well, and I appreciate you mentioning that because, look, we understand, I think everybody here understands their passion, and I appreciate their right to protest. It sounds like about cameras and about state data, and I think what I would say to them is, and to all of you is, no state takes this responsibility more seriously than Washington State. That is number one. Number two, no state is doing more to protect data than Washington State. We work closely with states all across the country, and we know how much work we're doing to limit that information. It's a challenging time when you're dealing with a federal government that literally follows no rules, follows no agreements. They'll pass along information, the most legitimate information, to ICE if that's what they feel they want to do. And so when you're dealing with truly a rogue administration in that way, it creates challenges. But my team meets regularly with community, of course, and we appreciate that partnership as well. We understand we're always going to have more work to do to continually refine the information we provide and don't provide to make sure we're keeping our community safe. But that's what I think today is all about, is a reflection of another step forward. And so please give another round of applause to Malou and all the hard-working folks who do exactly that. And so now it's my honor to sign this. The last thing I should say is I was asked on the last day of the session, it was late at night, and I had a press conference. I was sort of into the long day, and I was asked what my favorite bill was from the legislative session, which is a dangerous question to ask, right? You sign hundreds. They're all equally important, right? And, we had a great millionaire's tax that we'll sign soon. A lot of huge, but, I really said the legislation that popped in my mind, at that moment was this one. I mentioned this one. And it's because of what you've heard, I think, from so many others of what this speaks to, right? An outrageous federal administration, engaging ways that are deeply un-American, and to take this step and to say, hey, not on our watch, that we'll do everything we can to stand up to this conduct and make sure we're doing everything we can to defend Washingtonians. So it is really an honor to sign this legislation. We'll move over here, and please, everybody, Malou especially, come right on up, and we'll sign this legislation. Three pens. All right. We'll use three again for this one, everybody. The first one is for... Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate it. Another round of applause. Thank you so much. And where is my senator, Javier? There. Yeah. You bet. Congrats. Yeah. Thank you. And for our companion sponsor, give him a round of applause as well. Thank you so much. It's a great piece of legislation. Thank you, everyone. Let's give a round of applause to all the hard work and take a picture. And we're going to want one right up here for the official. Awesome. Hey, thanks everybody. Let's take a selfie. Come on. Ready? Got it?